This is Build It Baby, the show for big ideas, brave pivots, and bold next chapters. So let's do it. Let's build it, baby. Welcome to Build It Baby. I'm Penelope Bent here, and this podcast is your permission slip to stop living by default and start building with intention. So let's get started. Let's build it, baby. Okay, so here's my question for you. Is your life-work balance steady, or does it feel off? Does it feel out of balance? Let's be honest. Balance isn't something you find. It's something you build. And it starts on the inside. The thoughts that you think, the boundaries you hold, and the energy that you protect. So today, I want to chat about what it actually means to create space for your life, not just for your work. You know, more than ever, especially in my coaching business, I run into people that are struggling with their work-life balance. It is completely out of whack, out of balance. And many of us are working from our homes, so basically we live at the office. We have bosses calling at 10:30 p.m. at night, and then when we go on vacay, we look for a campsite with internet so that we'll be available to those that need us. Now tell me that this is not out of balance, definitely out of whack. And then when you start to think about this, the average person in the U.S. spends about 90,000 hours working in their lifetime, which is basically roughly 1/3 of their lives. And I have asked this question many, many times before. When you take your last breath, looking at your life, keyword, was it a great ride? Did you have a hand in the design, or did you just go along to get along? So let's dive into this work-life balance thing, but not in the way that you might think. When most of us hear that phrase, we imagine time management, color-coded calendars, or maybe even the magical 50-50 split between work and life. But here's the truth. Balance isn't just about your schedule. It really is about your mindset, the story you tell yourself about work, about rest, and about what makes you valuable. And until we look at that inner game, all the productivity hacks in the world won't stick. Because here's the thing. Most of us are carrying silent beliefs that sabotage our balance. So I'd like to chat about 3 mental traps that keep us stuck, and the mindset shifts and action steps that can finally move us toward real balance. So I guess the question is, how do we get out of these traps? Well, in my experience, we start by changing the script in our heads, and then we go on to changing our action. Mind shift plus new action step equals balance. And hopefully by the end of the episode, you'll know which trap you fall into most, how to reframe it, and one simple action you can try this week to make things more in balance. So here's one of the first, probably one of the most popular traps. It's called the hustle equals my worth. We've been taught that if we're not busy, we're not valuable. And if we're not working late or answering emails at 11, we're falling behind. Sound familiar? Yeah, that's the hustle equals the worth trap. And the bottom line is, what you're believing is, if I'm not busy, I'm not valuable. So you tell yourself this story. You take the calls at 10:30, you work on vacation, and basically you're living at the office. But what if you were to shift the worth isn't measured in hours, but work should fit into my life, not consume it? Take an action step. Instead of the hustle, take a breath. Shift from the hustle, define your rules of engagement, set communication hours, silence phones at 6 p.m. Focus on making work fit smoothly into your life. Rather than separating it, allowing for a more blended experience, create a natural, effortless movement between your work and your personal life. You're not going to war each day. You're supposed to be out there creating, bringing a new product to market, or working at your job with folks that are helping others lead healthier lives. You're contributing. You're helping. Your work has value for the greater good. And by, silence the phone at 6 p.m., focus on, really review and investigate. What are the hours of my communication? Don't hope your boss won't call you at 10:30. Ask up front what's expected of you. I know for myself, because I work with clients in different time zones, my business hours are from 5 a.m. Pacific time to 6 p.m. Pacific time, because this allows me to be available for my clients back east, as well as those on the West Coast. Are there exceptions from time to time? Oh, you bet, sure. But not on a regular basis, because I establish my preferred hours with my clients. Here's a perfect example. I had an amazing client that I loved working with. I worked with this gal for 3 years, building her company. And the commitment was, my contract was really only for 10 hours a week, but knowing me, I was really diving in with both feet and really helping her build programs, and she was into coaching and so on and so forth. And I'll be damned if she wouldn't find a reason to give me a call on a Sunday. And if I hadn't asked once, I must have asked a billion times. Please, that's the one day that is, super family day, especially in the fall. It's a big football day. That's the time my husband and I get cozy and watch the football game and have our hors d'oeuvres and so on and so forth. So Sundays are not a good day for me to take your call. But this went on consistently. So finally, I kind of really was perturbed one Sunday, and I just said, this isn't working. I really don't want to be taking these work calls on Sunday. I need time to decompress and be with my family. And the response was, I'm the boss. You'll take my call when I deem necessary. Well, you can only imagine what my thoughts were there. So I finished the business call in a polite, professional manner. I sat down, didn't say a word to my husband. I think I watched the football game that day, but boy, at the back of my head, I was fuming. And I was thinking to myself, well, wait a minute. This is a team sport here. Number one, you're my client. I certainly want to please you and to provide great service. But, boss, I don't think so. So first thing on Monday morning, I found the courage and I very politely wrote a lovely letter to her email stating that I had really enjoyed the 3.5 years that she and I had worked together, but that I had found that this environment was not in balance for what I was wanting in my life, and I resigned from the project. Needless to say, I think that it was quite a surprise. I think everything kind of ended up coming to a standstill at that point. But the piece that I found absolutely valuable and very interesting is that later she and I had a conversation, and in her world, doing business on Sundays doesn't seem to be a problem for her. So in the long run, I had to decide what works really best for me. And so, as I said, the conclusion was no. In no uncertain terms, it does not. So set your tone. Make it clear. Make it clear with yourself. What are the hours that you work? What are you willing to deal with after regular business hours? And then I really believe that taking a breath really means creating breathing room for yourself. And notice participation in your life. You have to take a breath out of your day. Maybe it's for a walk, maybe it's a call and a chat with family members, but sit outside for a cup of coffee or eat your lunch. Please avoid eating your lunch at your desk. For me, I like to go out, sit in the sun for a little bit. It's my must-have time. I'll sit in the sun, or I'll sit in the sun if it's snowing, but I'll sit in the sun. But mostly it's that time of the day where I kind of clear my mind, giving myself a reset. I'm amazed at how that 20-minute must-have time allows me to empty my mind and fill up my tank for the energy and clarity I need for the rest of the day. So I really encourage you to go from hustle to work-life harmony. Find a dynamic rhythm or equilibrium between your professional and your personal responsibilities. Okay, so the second unbelievable trap that so many of us get into is the perfectionism. That perfectionism, that whole piece, that voice that says I need to give 110% in every role as a professional, a parent, a partner, a friend. But that's not balance. That'll lead to definite burnout. So when you look at your belief, is your belief I must give 110% in every role? Is the thought there that everything has to be perfect? But what if you made a shift and you realize that consistency beats perfection every time? So rather than be a perfectionist, look at the progress of just being the project being done. Just get to the done part and understand that being consistently done, making sure that the projects come to a finish, that you're putting in the time that is allowed to finish the project. Because sometimes perfectionism can keep you from ever closing the door to the project. Done is better than perfect. We're human beings. There is nothing perfect about us. We all have flaws or areas that could use a bit of improvement, but we do know how to get things done. And in my opinion, showing up is 90% of the ask. I always say progress, not perfection. Consistency beats perfect every time. I remember thinking everything had to be so perfect. And now after years in business, consistently good outweighs perfect every time. And perfect many times could be a time waster, or it could be unachievable. But consistently good or very good, oh man, I'm in. And I can do that. And then trap 3 that you could possibly fall into, the scarcity thinker. The idea that if you don't say yes to every project, every client, every opportunity, it'll disappear forever. So you basically overload out of fear. So is your belief, if I say no, opportunities will disappear? Here's a perfect story. I was working for a company that I just loved. It was a contract, it was a recruiting project, and it was a 1.5-year contract in California. And after 1.5 years in California, that's really the extension, the extent of a contract because of the laws that the state has and so on and so forth. Well, I loved working for this company so much, and it was so successful. I had really, I put in some serious time, and I was making sure that I was at the top of my game 24/7. Actually, when I look back on it, I was really overworking, but I wanted I really liked these people, and I wanted that company to really do well. And I was thrilled to be contributing to its success. So I was like a crazy woman, working my tail off. Well, when it came time for that contract to be up, I remember having a long conversation with the people person of operations, delightful woman. And I said, well, I'd love to move forward with the company. I understand my contract is over, but, I've always thought, well, if there's a will, there's a way. And her comeback was, based on the regulations in California and in the situation that we're in, we cannot move forward with you other than the original 1.5-year plan. And I have to tell you, I really took that personally. I had given them all, and I just couldn't understand, because being in business myself, I do believe if there's a will, there's a way. I'll come up with the resources. I'll make it happen if I believe that person is so valuable to the building of my company. And honest to God, I felt like I had, PTSD after that. I just was really taken back. I don't know if it was as much about ego as I was deeply hurt. It was something that I wanted, and I had proved that I was a valuable partner in the overall project. Well, little did I know, the majority of the recruiting division of that company, in the planning with the board and so on and so forth, the intention was to move the majority of the recruiting efforts offshore. Well, I wasn't privy to that information. So I was devastated that they wouldn't somehow come up with a plan to keep me on board. And so I think sometimes we need to realize that it doesn't matter how well you do the task, the job, or how many gold stars they give you. Sometimes it ain't in the stars, babe. It's just not there. That's not what their bigger objective is. You were one of the players, and I'm sure that they were thrilled that I was there for the length of time that I was there. But it never dawned on me for a minute that they had a bigger action plan. Had I known that, I would have completely understood why I had not been moved forward. So, regardless of how much you may be afraid of accepting more project and spending more hours, sometimes all that effort is really to no avail. Isn't it more important to be looking at the opportunity as an abundant experience? Value is not tied to 24/7 availability. It's tied to your performance, and it's tied to you understanding that as long as you perform in the manner that you believe is appropriate, there's nothing worse than being afraid of losing your job or your client because you want to work harder than your counterparts. You don't want to avoid the impending layoffs, or if I make myself available to my client 24/7, they won't be able to live without me. Wrong. Especially in today's marketplace, you can be the best of the best, and you still could be a part of a downsize. You just never know. So when you're starting to think about your life-work balance, try to ask which one of these traps are yours. Is it the hustle? Is it the perfectionism? Or is it scarcity? Name it. Name it so you hear it. And then perhaps experiment with flipping it into a new mindset shift along with the new action step. Remember, one mindset shift plus one new action step equals balance. In addition, I think it's really important for you to understand that instead of treating balance as an endpoint, see it as a cycle. Balance isn't a finish line. It's a rhythm. Some seasons lean toward work, others will lean toward life. But you're the designer. So you're the one that is put in charge to keep that balance equal to the life that you want to design for yourself. And if you try any of these, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out through the listener question link in the show notes or tag me on Instagram or LinkedIn. I'd love to hear if a slight shift in your mindset will help in your issue with balance. So here's the part where I tell you exactly what I know. These are my knowings, the things I no longer question, because they've shown themselves to me again and again. Not from a book, but from building, getting knocked down, getting back up, and doing this work in the real world. Okay, here are my knowings. Number 1, I know that the more I participate in the design of my life, the more I am in rhythm with my true being. When I honor myself, I honor others. Number 2, I know that pushing creates a creative block for me. Everything seems to stop. The more anxious I become, the deeper hole I dig for myself. When I trust, I open my door to receive. And that definitely helps with my balance. And number 3, I know that somehow I will always be provided for, whether that be a better opportunity shows up after one door closes, or monies will come in from a channel I did not even entertain. I know all is good. So those are my knowings. Okay, now it's time for listener questions. So here we go from Sarah in Idaho. Okay, Sarah. Okay, here's Sarah's question. Our children are grown, and I mentioned to my husband that I was thinking of going back to college. Oh, okay. I loved being a stay-at-home mom. I never received a degree, and I thought maybe now would be a perfect time. My husband's reaction was far from encouraging. Would you have any suggestions as to how I should proceed? Wow, okay. Well, there is a question there, Sarah. Thank you so much for sending this one in. Well, I guess my first thought is to, we all understand that marriage is a partnership. And anytime you're working with a co-founder, it's very important when you share your new idea or concept to include how this new version or expansion will impact them directly. I think when you start putting this together, for example, will these be online courses? Will you still be available to participate in his daily routine? Will you be available to continue to travel or go on vacay, just like you always have? What, if any, would be the restrictions or changes? Most people poo-hoo ideas. Really, I think their knee-jerk reaction is out of fear. What is going to be changing? How's my life going to be changing? She wants to go back to school. So people always, in my opinion, need to know how these changes will affect them. And the more clarity you have around perhaps his life not having any major alterations, the more comfortable he may be and warm up to the idea. Also, I think it's very important to discuss if there's any financial component that you need to go over with him, so he understands that you're not necessarily suggesting $100,000 a year and you're moving off to live on campus. Perhaps you could review what your course load and academic responsibilities would entail. Or maybe make a slight adjustment, maybe fewer classes to begin with, ease into it. And then I wouldn't hesitate to share the personal aspects. It's really important with your partners, whether it's, your life partner or your business partner, what achieving your degree will mean to you. What will these changes mean to you? And the bottom line, all partnerships require a bit of compromise and a gigantic amount of communication. But at the end of the day, remember, this is your life. If going back to school will make you feel happy and fulfilled, then by gosh, go for it. And at the same time, respecting your partner's perspective and keeping open communication is important. But you shouldn't hold yourself back from something meaningful because of someone else's fear or perspective. Fulfillment comes from choosing what's true to you. So share your truth with your husband. And for some reason, I have a good feeling that he'll kind of start to warm up to the idea. And my last comment on that would be to allow him to be partnership in your pursuit. Perhaps engage him in some of the helping you with the learning process, or ask his opinion. What do you think of these classes versus those? Engage with him and make it more of a team effort, or at least something that he's feeling that he's participating in, so that he doesn't feel that he's over here and you're over there. I think that's really important. That's just a piece of marriage strategy that I can throw in there for you. Well, thank you for your question, Sarah. And if you're sitting there with a question of your own, big or small, I'd love to hear it. Just text me through the link in the show notes, and it may be featured on a future episode. Well, it's that time. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Build It, Baby. Work-life balance doesn't start on your calendar. It starts in your mind. When you shift your mindset and take even a few small action steps, you shift your entire outcome. Change your mind, change your rhythm, change your life. Always best, P. Build It Baby is a Rainy Day Production House original, hosted by Penelope Bent and produced and edited by Morgan Clymer. Music by Yuri Shemshashin and Oleksiy Holobiev. If this episode spoke to you, please follow the show and leave a review. It helps more dreamers like you find us. And remember, you're not just building a bold business or a career, you're building a bold life.